Hey, what's up? Happy Father's Day, Facebook. Actually, Facebook. Facebook ain't no father. Happy Father's Day to all the brothers out there watching, all the men that do so much for their families, that strive every day in this culture, in this world, to live up to honorable ideas or ideals of manhood. I hope you guys had a good Father's Day. We're going to talk about that here a little bit because I know that that means different things to different people, right? Some people it's a day where you celebrate, where you kick back, enjoy, maybe fire up the barbecue. For other people, it's a day full of grief, and heartache, and loneliness and hurt. Um, but we'll touch on that in a minute. So, welcome to this page. My name is Mike King, aka Mike Your Mentor. And I want to welcome you. If you're watching the replay, thank you very much for checking this out. So, since today is Father's Day, I kind of want to set the stage. But before I did that, I promised you guys a special announcement earlier in this week regarding this page. So there's some good news, I guess, and maybe there's some bad news. The good news is I can say what happened. So Facebook reached out to me and asked if they could use some of the, actually a picture from this page regarding something they were doing for Father's Day. So I had to sign some consent forms regarding that. They were supposed to be putting together something special today for that. I'm not sure if I saw the right thing or not. What I saw didn't include um, any of my stuff, which is fine, not a problem at all. But it was a great tribute to fathers for Father's Day. If you happen to catch that, I just saw it on someone else's timeline, oddly enough, but I didn't see anything out there or anything else. So maybe there is something else out there that had that in there. But that was the secret that I wasn't supposed to tell anybody because of the consent I signed. That was part of it. But nonetheless, a real cool thing that Facebook would reach out because they see the things that are happening on this page and they're taking notice and just celebrating men, honoring men. So now we'll move into what I really want to talk about tonight, but I got to give some context. And I know I tell my story a lot for the people that watch this regularly, but if you're new and you're watching tonight, especially, you need to know this context because it's going to play into exactly what God is asking me to do. Now, normally I would have already had something laid out, which I did. But earlier, God pressed upon my heart to share something different with you guys, um, because it's Father's Day, and He showed this to me, right. He enlightened this to me earlier, and I think it's going to be really helpful for some people out there that are watching, and in some way helpful for everybody. That's always my prayer before I do these videos, that whatever we're talking about would touch your heart and would open your mind, even the slightest bit, to whatever God is trying to speak to you about. Because it's interesting, right? Like God is a father. He's depicted as a father figure, but a lot of people associate God's character with the character of their father. So if their father was good to them, God is good to them. If their father was angry and abusive and just wanted to beat them down and smite them, and a lot of times that's their opinion of God, and it's definitely an interesting dynamic. So I'm trying to find a concise way to tell my story, and it's difficult, right? There is no like 30-second elevator pitch, I guess, to tell my story that I found yet, and maybe that's just because I enjoy details. I'm a detailed type of guy. I want to know things. I'm very curious by nature, so I try to give a lot of detail. So, for the people that haven't heard my story, right, I grew up for the first 10 years of my life with my father in and out of prison for selling drugs. And I have a couple of memories. Hey, thanks, Nick. Happy Father's Day to you, too. I have a couple memories of that time that stick out. One memory is just like you see on the movies, going to the prison and sitting in the chair, and dad coming in from the back of the prison, and mom picking up the phone and talking to him through the bulletproof glass or whatever that is that separates you, and then handing the phone to me to talk to my dad. I remember another time where we went up there for a visitation day, and we got to be outside, and Dad talked to us for a little bit, and then me and my brother and my sister went and played on the playground while him and Mom, talked and did whatever it was. And then I got some other memories of Dad being in a halfway house when he would come out of prison. And if you don't know, a halfway house is kind of like where they try to get you acclimated back to life. You have a little bit more freedom. There's a curfew. They expect you to get a job. And you get so much free time, I guess, if I'm remembering this correctly, every week to go out and run errands or meet with your family. Right? Well, at that time. Hey, thanks, Steve. Happy Father's Day to you too, bro. Um, you wear, or how it used to be is you wore an ankle monitor, right, while he was out with us, and on, I guess, parole or probation or whatever that looked like. But a couple times, going out with him and then having to go back, and it never really hit me too hard. But I remember this one time it had a real big effect on my sister as we got back in the car and my dad started walking down the sidewalk to go back to the halfway house, and my sister, she just started, we were probably like, I was probably like 7, so my sister's probably like 5. And I'll never forget this. We're on our knees in the back seat of the car, looking out the back window, watching Dad walk away, and my sister just starts crying and screaming for Dad, and then uh, she opens up the car door and runs down the sidewalk, screaming and crying for my dad, and he turns around and kind of runs back to her with his arms wide open and scoops her up in his arms and gives her a hug. And I don't know what he said to her. I can imagine, but it was a very touching moment, um, even at that age for me, and something that I've never forgotten. So when we were 10, Dad got out of prison, and I really don't remember much between that age and between 15 of him being around. He just kind of disappeared. He was a ghost. Don't know really what he was doing. I think at times he was trying to drive truck for over the road for different companies. And so at age 15, he came back around. I don't even remember how he came back around. All I know is that I was super pumped. Right, here's my dad who only ever seen me play basketball once. Is gonna be around and get to see that and watch me play football, and we're gonna shoot hoops in the driveway and lift weights in the basement and do all this stuff. I guess I wanted to always do with my dad that I never had a chance to. And he's around for, I want to say, a couple of months. It might even just a couple of weeks, but it didn't last long. And without getting into too much of the details, he basically had a huge blowout with my mom and took off, and then came back some hours later, and I woke up to a loud sound of glass shattering, and my basement was in the bedroom. So I run up the stairs, run through the kitchen into the living room, and I'm looking out the front door. We had like the big, front windows in the living room, and he's out in the front lawn with his shirt off, clearly high as a kite, screaming obscenities at my mom, and a bunch of choice words for her. And I looked down by the door because something caught my eye, and there's a good football-sized rock laying there in the entryway, that he picked up and threw through the front window, and that's the sound I heard. Um, Obviously, when it smashed the glass. So my mom comes running out of the bedroom, phone in hand, uh, telling my dad she called the police and he's going back to jail or something, something to that effect. And he got scared and got in his truck and drove off. And he was a ghost once again. Basically, 2.5 years go by. I graduate from high school, get a call. My dad's coming to my graduation. He shows up there, gives us the song and dance that we've heard pretty much our whole life. I'm going to be there for you. Sorry I've been away and you haven't heard from me. I love you guys. You can count on me. And then I went on to college and he was a ghost again. And then my sophomore year of college, unfortunately, my brother decided to take his life. And that was a whole set of emotions and circumstances. But at the funeral, who showed up again? My father. I was walking up the dirt road to the cemetery to bury my brother, and a door opened, and a voice said, "Hey, come here." And I peered over and looked in there, and there was my dad in the back seat of this car, just like everybody, a wreck, right? Eyes red, bloodshot from all the crying, and he's in there talking to me, and he's crying, and he's apologizing and saying if he would have been in our lives, Anthony never would have did this. And I can only imagine the guilt and the shame that he must have been carrying from that. I can only imagine. Um, but saying the same old things, I'm going to be there for you. This is a life-changing experience. This is a wake-up call that I needed. All those type of things. And then he disappeared shortly after that again. And then 2 years later, right, graduating from high school, or from college, from college, and I get a phone call, and it's my dad. Sorry, I haven't been around. Sorry you haven't really heard from me, but I'm super proud of you. First person in our family to graduate from college. I'm going to be coming there to see you graduate, but by the way, when you see me, don't be scared. Yada, yada, yada. My brain, obviously processing that, realized that that's not a normal sentence structure to say to somebody. So I stop him from what he's saying, and I'm like, "What do you mean? Don't be scared." And he's like, "Well, I don't look the same as what you remember me." Okay, well, what do you mean by that? Um, the doctors have only given me a few weeks to live, or they're not sure how long I have to live. I have stage 4 liver cancer, but I'm fighting it, and I'm gonna beat this. And we're doing the best, and I'm gonna be there. He said some other things, and then we said goodbye. So graduation comes and goes. I think I might have seen him. There was somebody that kind of looked like him. He was always a very dapper dresser, and I thought I saw an older black man coming down the stairs for a brief second, where we had our college graduation there in the lawn at the college. Uh, didn't really give it too much thought. A couple days go by, and I get a phone call from my dad, and he says he's at my godfather's house, and wants to know if I'll come over there and talk to him. So go over there, and sure enough, see him, and he aged 100 years since the last time I saw him. His eyes are all sunk in the back of his head. His skin's all pulled tight to his bones. He's got to be like, I mean, my dad was a buff dude, like naturally, like thick, right? Like he probably was about a good 6'1", 6 foot, maybe 215, 220, and here he is, like 100 and something, 110, 120 pounds. I mean, he looks horrible, and clearly he's dying. And spend about 20 minutes talking, and then he's got to go lay down because he's tired from all the chemo and stuff that he's undergoing. And tell my dad I love him, and he tells me he loves me, and say goodbye, not knowing what's next. A couple weeks later, he died, and I'm sitting at the funeral, and go there and walk in front of his casket and say my last regards, or whatever it's called, my last words to my dad there in the casket. And I turn and I go to sit back down in my seat, and this wave of emotion hits me, and I start to cry uncontrollably. And as I cry, my anger starts to rise, and my life flashes before me in my mind's eye, and it's all my whole life but everything that's highlighted literally is all the moments that he missed from my life. And I begin to think about how he doesn't know anything about me. He doesn't know what I like. He doesn't know what I want to do with my life. Like, he doesn't know what my favorite food is. Like, all these little things and all these big things, and it's all building to this crescendo of sadness and anger and me crying and just the rage. And I hear this audible voice, the voice of God, and he says, I know everything about you. And immediately, like that, this undescribable peace comes over me, and I stop crying, and I'm smiling, and I'm calm, and I'm fine, and it's amazing. And I don't know. And that's the history with my dad. Dads are supposed to teach their sons a lot of things. Maybe they teach their sons how to cook. Maybe they teach their sons how to change the tire on a car. Maybe they teach their sons how to court a woman, or how to properly date. All these different things, right? Um, I I remember one thing clearly that my dad taught. Well, wanted to well, I guess taught, I guess would be the appropriate word. And that was when I was 16. Or no, I'm sorry, I was 14. And we were going for a ride in his semi, and he was taking me to the bank to set up some a checking account or something. And he's talking to me about girls and asking me if I had a girlfriend, and I told him I did, and he told me I was foolish, and that there was all these beautiful women in the world, and why would I ever settle on one, and not to get locked in. And we talk a lot on this channel about how do you know when you're a man, right? What does that look like in your life? When do you step into manhood? And I clearly remember him saying when I turned 18, he was going to take me to a brothel out in Las Vegas, and have me welcomed into manhood the right way, right? That was his concept of manhood. That's what it looked like for him, right? And being a father now myself, I think about the legacy that I want to leave in my kids. And what are my kids going to say about me when I'm dead and gone? And I think about what I'm now sharing with you about my dad, right? Like, right or wrong, that's my dad's legacy that he left in me. And I'm sure if I thought about it hard enough, there's some good things too. So I say all that to say, to kind of bring you up to speed, right? Like, here I am in life with this huge father wound, this huge rejection, this huge abandonment issue, this huge trust in other men, this huge trust in general, right? Like, my whole life, my dad's been telling me one thing and doing another thing. Never accepting responsibility, never stepping up to the plate, uh, just running away. And obviously he did the best that he could with what he had. Um, I get that, and I acknowledge that. But it wasn't until I was 36 that I started to really dig deep into these things, into these wounds that I had inside my heart that my dad caused me. And tonight, on this Mike Your Mentor Sunday sermon, I want to share something with you that's extremely intimate to me. And I haven't looked at this in a long time. Um, but I did this thing, and this thing that I did, there was an exercise as part of it. And one of the exercises was to sorry, is to write a letter to your earthly father. And I want to read that to you. And then I will want to share the second part of this exercise, which was write a letter from your earthly father to you. Right? So think of everything that I just shared with you and that I've been through. And I know that there's some people watching this that Father's Day is tough for you, right? Because your dad's not around. You may have a family of your own. You may be doing the best that you can. But when you see other people acknowledging and thanking their fathers, you know, maybe you're spiteful towards your dad. Maybe you're hurt because of something your dad did to you. Maybe your dad's never told you he's proud of you. Maybe your dad's never told you he loved you. You know, what do you do with that? How do you navigate that? How do you heal from that, right? And this is how, right? This is one of the things that you can do to start to begin to close that wound. So my intention of sharing this with you is to, one, always be vulnerable with you guys and to just be an open book for you and to model these things, right? Like doing what I say is very important to me, and I don't always do that, right? But I'm very conscious of that. So I want to read these instructions to you, and if you're paying attention, you know, and you need to do this for yourself, you can do that. As always, with anything that I recommend to you guys, right? One, you need to honor the process. You need to handle these wounds intelligently, with wisdom and with discernment. Ask God to highlight this for you, right? To walk you through this, to give you discernment and wisdom regarding this, and then act when you hear Him direct you, right? Just don't run full bore into this thing. You have to steward this properly, right? Because this is a sensitive matter. You don't, you know, and the devil's just looking for a chance to stop you from getting the freedom that you could experience from this. So here's the instruction. It says, write a letter to your earthly father. If you've never had an earthly father, write a letter telling him what you would have liked him to have known. For some of you, this will be so easy. Your dad was involved and supportive. For some, this will be incredibly difficult. All of us wear a wound from our father. Richard Henderson, founder and steward of Fellowship of the Sword, said, "My father was a wonderful, godly man. He lived his faith in front of me, but he never spoke to me about his faith. I walked the first 40 years of my life with no blessing from my father. This is honesty time. This letter can open the door for healing. This letter can open the door for a flood of great memories. Spend time in prayer before you write. So I'm going to read this to you. Hopefully I won't cry. It's been a while since I visited this. So we'll just dive into it. Here we go. Dear Dad, I don't understand why you couldn't be there for me more growing up. I needed you. I needed you to show me how to be a man. You were supposed to bestow manhood on me. What happened in your life that made you do the things you did? All I ever wanted was a dad who cared about me. Not a dad who just said he loved me, but a dad who actually showed me what love looked like. You definitely showed me what love wasn't like. It wasn't okay, but I forgive you, Dad. I wish you were still alive so you could see the man I've become. By God's grace, I've been able to give my family the life I never had growing up. You should see your grandchildren. Anthony is tall and smart and athletic. He's got a good head on his shoulders and a servant's heart. Michaela is a spunky little girl who has the world in her fingertips. They're both good kids. You would love Jody. She's exotic and beautiful. She's passionate and doesn't hold back. She's also funny and gets along with everyone. She has such a heart for the broken. I don't have the same love for basketball that I once had, but that's fine. It served its purpose in my life by getting me through some real tough times. It would have been nice if you could have seen me play more. I know you had demons of your own that you were dealing with, but I want you to know that me and Jody are standing together on God, and we're breaking the generational curse of divorce and sending the King family in a new direction. We're taking back everything the devil tried to steal from us. A new legacy of manhood is starting with me. I will love my wife passionately, be present in my kids' lives, and honor God in word and deed. Now the second one. Write a letter from your earthly father to you. Include things that you need to hear a Jesus with skin on father say. Include a blessing spoken to your heart. Renew your mind. Imagine your father actually speaking these words to you. Once again, for some this may be very difficult. Are you angry, bitter? There is only one way to get healing. Face the issue and give it to God. Spend some time in prayer before you write. So this is what I wrote. Dear son, I want you to know how proud of you I am. You have become a great man despite the odds you faced and my lack of involvement in your life. I'm sorry you had to go through that. No child should have to deal with the things you had to. No little boy or young man should have to live without their father. I want you to know that you have what it takes, and there is no need to doubt or second guess yourself. Michael, I speak a blessing over you. May God bless the work of your hands. May God raise you up. May you prosper in all you do, and may God bless your marriage and your children. May you be a blessing to your children's children. May God guide you and walk with you all of your days. May you never be in need. In Jesus' name, I pray and ask all these things. Your father, John Henry King. So, in closing for tonight, that's what that exercise looks like. And as I've stated before, right, these things that I'm sharing with you guys, I get it. They are hard. They're extremely hard to do. But they're extremely rewarding and they're extremely freeing. I didn't get through that. I remember the day that I had to go through that. I didn't get through that without shedding a lot of tears, without experiencing a lot of anger and emotion and resentment, right? But to actually take all of that out of myself and leave that in the place that I was and move on from that was extremely therapeutic. So I just want to encourage you, if you're watching this tonight or on the replay, and you can relate to some of these things in your relationship with your father, and he's not there anymore, for you to do that. If your father is still alive and you're away from him and you are distant, two things. First, um, if you can't, right, if there's a different time for everything. If you're not led to go see him, write the letters. Actually, I would say write the letters either way. But I would also encourage you to take a second step, and that's go see your dad. Go tell him you love him. Go tell him you want him to tell you that he loves you, and that you need to hear that he's proud of you, and ask for his blessing on your life. Yeah, it's gonna take courage. It's gonna take guts. You know, but you can do it. And regardless of what that looks like, the end result and what that answer is, you're gonna walk in a freedom that you've never experienced before. So, for all the guys, this is just a reminder, but God's been stirring this up in my heart for a long time, and I've shared it with you guys. God is doing something in the hearts of men. He is calling men back to true manhood, not this over masculine, aggressive, alpha type male thing that you see, right? He's calling us back to honor. He's calling us back to love, to friendship. In our marriages, in our families, in our relationships with our kids, in our communities. And the choice is ours. Are we going to answer? Are we gonna rise to the challenge and start to change this world? Or are we going to continue to let things get worse? I beat that horse with a stick numerous times, so we'll just leave it there. But I want to thank you guys again for tuning in, watching live, and then watching the replay. If you need me, shoot me a message. We'll figure something out. I'm here to help you however I can. If it's just somebody to listen to, somebody to get something off your chest without feeling judged, I'm here. I can help you. I can help you out with that. I love you guys. Hope you had a good Father's Day, and we'll see you tomorrow for My Life Monday. Thank you.